because she's got the gold in her house.
Thank you, everyone.
Where'd you get her? Trouble, no.
I'm going. Ding.
Gosh, I'm standing for the pledge of allegiance.
If all those who care to join me stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Commissioner Stevens is not here. And Holden is not here. So our board norms, debate, commentary, and discussion are healthy and open. Listening and speaking are equally important, and both should be done with respect and consideration. Focus is on students and our schools, not politics. Assume best intentions in all discussions. I'll entertain an approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
So can we move to?
Yeah, I have a motion to add the personnel memo to the, the personnel memo addendum to the consent agenda that we all have at our.
Second.
Here, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Could I have a motion to remove personnel memo 651?
Yes, so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
And now I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So we need to discuss personnel memo number 651. And we have Attorney Mube with us.
I love efficiently run meetings.
So do we.
So I'm going to read something. I normally don't read anything. Everyone who has ever dealt with me knows that I usually talk off the top of my head, but I do want to read something. I've been asked to be here tonight to address the inclusion of Morgan Seward on the personnel memo that you are about to consider. I was asked by the superintendent to render an opinion about whether the policy 1350 would apply to Morgan Seward. My understanding of the facts is that Morgan Seward is the stepdaughter of School Commissioner Charlene Seward. Morgan has never resided in the home of Charlene, even though she has visited and stayed overnight and has worked for Charlene. Morgan would not be considered a member of Charlene's household, as that term is defined when I Google it or look it up in a dictionary, because she is not an occupant of Charlene's house. But the language of policy 1350 could be interpreted to apply to Morgan Seward, so I cannot give a definitive opinion that the policy does or does not apply. The language in my mind is ambiguous. As a result, I recommended that the issue be fully presented to the board in the kind of transparency and values that you articulate at the beginning of your meeting to decide what the board wants to do, which is why I'm here. I need to tell you that the superintendent, I believe, has circulated the policies, and you can see that 1350 says that you're not supposed to hire certain people. And I will just leave it at that and let you take a look at the policy when we get to it. According to policy, another policy that I want you to look at, it's policy 1410. It's called policy development. And it states, policies are to, quote, serve as guidelines for the successful and efficient functioning of the Rutland City Public Schools, close quote. Guidelines are not mandatory and can be waived. When I read policy 1350, the clear purpose of the language as I read it is to prevent school commissioners from lobbying for a member of a commissioner's immediate family to be hired, not employed, because if a household member is already employed, this policy does not apply. In this situation, Charlene was unaware that her stepdaughter had applied for a position, and she was and she clearly did not lobby in any way for her stepdaughter. Morgan was chosen as the best candidate for the position that she applied for. Only then was this potential issue identified, and I was asked to give an opinion under the circumstances. And I'm just going to read the two-sentence policy. Members of the immediate family of the Rutland City Board of School Commissioners shall not be hired for any position in the Rutland City School District. Immediate family is defined as a spouse, parent, sibling, children of members of the household. I believe that policy 1350 can be waived by the board so that Morgan can be hired while Charlene remains a commissioner. I have drafted a motion to do just that, which I believe has been given to the chair. I am here to answer any questions that members may have. I've handed out copies of the relevant policies so you can take a look at them. The two-sentence employment of immediate family of Board of School Commissioners, and the policy development that clearly indicates that policies are just guidelines. They are not mandatory rules. I have researched and found no other statutes or law that would apply to this situation or would prevent the hiring of Morgan Seward. So I'm here to answer any questions. I believe that under the circumstances, you have the potential of following what the people have recommended, the administration. They chose the best candidate, and then this came to the surface, and you'd be able to keep the commissioner. So I'm here to answer any questions if anybody has it. It might be appropriate to have the motion made, read, and seconded, and then if people want to discuss the motion, which I think is appropriate, then I would be able to answer any questions that they might have in connection with the motion.
Okay. I move that we waive the applicability of policy number 1350 in connection with the hiring of Morgan Seward so that we can approve hiring her pursuant to the personnel memo that will be presented to us to approve because, 1, our policies pursuant to policy number 1410 are to serve as guidelines, not absolute rules. 2, the purpose of policy 1350 is to prevent school commissioners from lobbying for the hiring of immediate family household members, which did not occur in this case. 3, RCPS would not be hiring the person that administration wants to hire unless we waive the applicability of this policy. And 4, what is meant by immediate family and household, which is defined as occupants of a house, is ambiguous since this is a stepchild of a board member who does not reside in the household of the board member, meaning that it is uncertain whether this policy as written was meant to apply to the facts involved with Morgan Seward.
Second.
All in favor?
I think we do discussion.
Well,
Oh, sorry.
okay, sorry. Does anyone? Sorry, I jumped the gun. Yes, Karen.
Well, I was just going to say, I think that, Rutland is a small city. There is a lot of potential conflicts. But as we could tell from the election, people are not clamoring to get on the school board, nor do we have an overabundance of teachers. So I'm a member of the policy committee, and I'm going to refer this for policy committee to take a look at it. As Attorney Mube said, on its face, it's vague and ambiguous, but I think that it does need to be updated.
Yeah, I would hate to lose a good hire just based on technicality.
Yeah.
Or lose an excellent
Commissioner.
commissioner.
Yeah, you're cool too.
Any more questions? Discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I'd like to abstain. Can I just be on the record that I abstain?
Oh,
Oh,
yes,
okay.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Charlene
Abstained.
abstained. The motion carries. And I think we need a motion now to,
I'd like to make a motion to approve the personnel memo 651.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain?
Abstain, Charlene abstains.
Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay. So, my agenda. Do we have any members from the public who would like to speak to the board? No members. Okay. Amaya?
RIS and RMS were fortunate to host not only the Green Mountain Music Districts on March 1st, but also the RCPS grades 3 through 12 choral concert on March 7th as part of Music in Our Schools Month. Our performers sang in front of a standing room only auditorium. The collaboration between the schools was quite impressive, and the singers were beaming with pride. RIS will be showcasing a variety of talents from our students at our RIS Talent Show, which will be held in the evening on March 28th, starting at 6 in our auditorium. It is sure to be a fun-filled family event. But before that day arrives, our PTO is hosting Grocery Bingo on March 21st. Doors open at 5:30 with bingo starting at 6. This too should be fun for all families in attendance. Lastly, a reminder that we will be holding parent-teacher conferences this Thursday and Friday. Thursday, students will be dismissed at 11:30, and there is no school on Friday. We look forward to meeting with all our families over the course of 2 days. February at Northeast was a short but jam-packed month, and we all appreciated having a week to rest. We enjoyed having the Rutland County Humane Society's Executive Director, Kay Jones, and her four-legged friend, Mo, as our special guests for our Paws Assembly for the monthly Character Trait Cooperative. This month, students at Northeast are spending the month of March participating, practicing, and highlighting examples of our monthly PAW character trait, SAFE. In February, we celebrated our 100th and 102nd day of school with a variety of ways to make 100 and some fun dress up. We tried different Valentine's Day thematic STEAM challenges in the classroom and were serenaded by the Mill River High School singing group. While we were enjoying February vacation, a group of volunteers from the roadside chapel were hard at work renovating our faculty room. The look on our team's faces was priceless on our first day back. This partnership was made possible thanks to Miss Maxwell, Kim, and Mark McGee and the roadside chapel volunteer crew. Be sure to see the before and after photos on our Facebook page. To wrap up the month, students visited the Humane Society to deliver donated goods from our Giving from the Heart campaign. Students loved reading books to the animals, and we loved teaching them about community service. Northwest Schools was very busy this month. Our students continued collecting cans to support our Heifer International project. We are very excited to announce that we were able to buy another goat, and the school is still voting on the final animal to purchase. We just received over $500 from a business in New York that wanted to support our cause. Thank you to the community for all of your support during this wonderful international service project. Over the next month, we are collecting canned taps to benefit the Shriners Hospital. We were able to have a guest come to Northwest and speak about the Shriners Hospital and how we can support their organization. The students were able to watch videos from Boston's Children's Hospital and had the opportunity to see what the value of a canned tab can do for others. We are excited to begin this as our community service project for the month of March. Although we didn't have much snow to celebrate our winter carnival, we still had a blast, concluding the month of February with a school-wide game of Hungry Hungry Hippos, followed by ice cream sundaes and hot chocolate on the playground. A shout out to Stewart's for donating the supplies for our yummy treats. This month, please be sure to watch our latest edition of the Learning Lounge for Rutland City Public Schools on PEG TV. We were able to learn more information from Rutland High School in their PLACE program and work-based learning opportunities. I have one more. Rutland High School student government is sponsoring a blood drive along with the Red Cross on March 18th in the high school gym. This is our second blood drive this year, which supports hospitals throughout Rutland County. Congratulations to the rock climbing team, who came in second place in the state competition. Highlights also include Josh being named top climber in the state for his performance, as well as Ivan as third for the men, and Amelia Shelton was the top female climber for the state competition. Preparations are well underway for the Global Studies and STEM Fair, which takes place on March 21st. 9th and 10th grade students will be presenting their science projects, social studies research, and narrative writing. This year's theme is water. Also, Rutland High School is proud to announce once again host the Global Progress Summit this year. This school day is an event that is scheduled to take place on April 4th and will feature a keynote address by Randall Barkley on the theme of decent work in economic development.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions for Maya? Melissa. There she is.
I need to start, right?
You need to start.
Start. I'll warn everybody, Melissa's not feeling great today, so we're going to
Fine.
try to make it easier for her.
Fine.
But I have to say this officially because this is part of the grant process. So we're as part of the Carl Perkins federal grant process, every tech center must complete a comprehensive local needs assessment every 2 years. I've been part of the process for the entire year, as well as Stephanie Studley as a board member. And this work has been part of the discussion of the Stafford Program Committee and the Stafford RAB, the Regional Advisory Board. So both those groups have looked at the process. Process requires that Stafford report to this board on the outcomes of the CLNA. And Melissa and Kate are going to lead us through the process. They're going to consider the questions of the assessment, and which is required by law in order to gain the federal funding. So no consideration, no federal funding. So we need to consider.
So please consider this. So thank you very much. As Bill mentioned, for those of you that were with us 2 years ago, you got to sit through this presentation, so I'll apologize in advance. We tried to summarize just under 600-page report into some quick slides for you to give you the snapshots that we are required to. So just a little bit of background. With the Carl D. Perkins grant, it was modified by the legislature about 6 years ago that requires that every 2 years we do what's called a comprehensive local needs assessment, which is really examining every aspect of our school, every stakeholder within our school, to make sure that we are doing what we say that we are doing. So on this slide in the presentation, it kind of outlines the 6 areas that we are required to gather data on, report out on the data and how we're doing, and then develop a plan for areas that we are not meeting targets on. So the 6 areas are student performance targets that we have. So there are different areas of that. Alignment of our programs with the labor market needs. So are the programs we're offering what this area needs? And when they define the area, it used to just be Rutland County, but now they have expanded it to include the state and neighboring counties for Massachusetts, New York, and New Hampshire. So we also have to look at that data as well. The size, scope, and quality of each program is really looking at, are our programs well enrolled? Are they meeting rigorous demands as far as the curriculum, and really making sure that it's meeting the industry standard so that students can pass national certification tests, because if they're not passing those tests, we're not meeting performance indicators. Also towards the progress of programs of study, so that's looking, there's 89 different areas that we have to examine, each by program in that area. So it's things like our student assessment. Do students have multiple opportunities to prove their proficiency in something? Do our teachers have the skills that they need to be able to teach? Do they have the resources? So we'll go into more detail on these areas. And then also, you know, the hot topic is recruitment and retention of instructors in CTE. And you've heard it before, our challenge is that we're competing against private sector with salary and wages, and that's always something that's a challenge for us. And then also progress towards equity and equal access for all students to access our CTE programs. So this next slide, and again, I apologize, it's 600 pages of data we've tried to summarize really quick for you so you're not here all night. So these are the student performance indicators in which we have to measure each year, and we receive feedback from the state each year. So if you look at the column that says FY22 to 23 growth, this is looking at our students that were considered concentrators, which means that they were with us and graduated in the FY23 school year. And so when you look at that, I tried to make it easy. If it's green, our numbers went up and we had improvements. If it's red, our numbers went down from the previous year. So you'll see that we improved in all areas with the exception of two. Those two areas were the reading language arts and then also non-traditional program concentration. So the non-traditional program concentration would be females that would be in traditionally male-dominant programs or males in fields that are considered traditionally female. So that's one piece. It's also looking at students on educational plans. It's looking at students that are in foster homes, homeless. There's about 15 different designations under non-traditional students. So that's kind of that area. We were really proud of a couple of areas. We've been doing a lot of work in math and math intervention in our programs, having our math instructor go into the programs, and we had a 12.57% gain. So we were really proud of that. Looking at the program quality attained post-secondary credentials, those are our industry recognized credentials. That's our students being offered, taking the assessments and passing the assessments and earning those qualifications. That increased by almost 22%. And then students participating in work-based learning, that's where they, instead of coming into their program, they're actually going out into internships that are connected to their program with a detailed training plan. That increased by almost 28%. And one of the pieces that really made that possible is that we've worked with the maintenance department and we now have a bus route that's available for students who don't have vehicles or can't afford to be transporting themselves. They wouldn't have had a way otherwise. So now there's a regular bus run that runs and gets students to their work-based learning. So that's been a huge, huge help to that area. So that's kind of the overall highlights. This is looking at that same data. Not only do we have to look at it as a center, but we have to look at it by program. And so this is just kind of showing you as far as those same academic performance areas, how we're doing by program. If it's highlighted in yellow, our goal each year is to come within 90% of the state target. And so the areas that are highlighted in yellow, those are areas that came some significantly short, some just shy. And so in our Perkins plan, we have to address how we will help those programs to help increase those areas. And so that's something that we will do. When you get to the Tier 2 IRCs and the college credits, you'll see there's lots of different coloring. And that's just to help you understand every program has a different requirement by the AOE. So if it's highlighted in blue, that means that they are required to offer at least one industry recognized credential. If it's purple, that means they're required to offer college credit. And if it is green, they have the option to choose what is best, and that has to come from the program advisory committee is the one that makes that recommendation. And each program at the Tech Center has a program advisory committee that is made of at least 5 industry members, and it has to be a wealth or a wide breadth of industries represented within that field. And they're the ones that advise the curriculum and the IRCs that are offered the college credit. So they're the ones that make the recommendation as to whether it should be college credit or an IRC. And as you can see, some are offering both, and ultimately that is our goal, is that all programs will be offering, because a high school student never knows if they are going to someday want to go back to college. So we want to make sure every student is ready for a college and career track, not an either-or option. And if you have any questions as we go along, because we probably won't remember any of this data at the end, so feel free to stop. In addition to looking by program, we have to break it down by special population category. So these are the areas that we have to hit. And again, any place where it is yellow, it means we didn't meet the target in that category for that particular population category. So we have to address in the plan what strategies we are going to put in place to do that. So that's just kind of to show you the level of detail that we have to get for this. And it's a huge team effort by our staff. And so just to give you a little of the process, every Friday in our faculty meetings since we've been doing this, we kind of take a different area and we examine as a faculty how we're going to go about strategizing that. So it's not just Kate and I sitting like, let's do this. It is truly a faculty effort, and we have input from all of the faculty on ideas, and there's been some really great ideas generated from that process. Moving into labor markets. So this is one, 2 years ago when we did our first CLNA, the state had identified programs that met labor market needs in Vermont, ones that didn't, and the ones that weren't on the fence. We were able to prove, we had 2 areas that the state had said did not meet labor market needs, and we were able to prove through data that they are needed in our area. So this year, we didn't have to go through and do as laborious of a task of going through, but we decided as a group that we really wanted to be able to show that we were right the last time. We have a thing about wanting to prove that we're right to the state. So we went through the process again just to make sure that everything was still as we had stated it was a couple of years ago. So the criteria is that it's a high growth area, that a student when they leave Stafford would have the ability to make at least $19 an hour, which is what the state designates as a livable wage. And that there is a post-secondary credential. So as you can see, yes.
I just had a question. What's
Sure.
the leadership program?
So the leadership is a program, this is the last year of the leadership program. It is a 3rd-year program for students that started with us as sophomores, that completed a program, didn't want to go on to another, but wanted to learn more of the management side or the business side of running that business.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we were able to go through the labor market needs assessment that we had done last time and really document, and the next slide shows you even more detail. These are the sources that we used. We used the Vermont's Most Promising Jobs brochure that comes out from the McClure Foundation every year. We were happy to see 10 of our 14 programs was listed there as one of the most promising careers. Vermont Department of Labor, they have a great dashboard for labor market information, and we were able to see the projected job openings, see what the minimum hourly wage is for an entry-level position. And this is a median based on all of the businesses that report through the labor market information. The other thing that we looked at this year is, you may recall that we are required to do the ACT Work Keys assessment. That's a federal requirement for us. And so they have a great dashboard that we're starting to use with our students that shows, according to industry, these are the minimum scores that a student would have to score in these areas in order to be successful for an entry-level career. The state requires us to, for all of our students, when they're talking about our ELA and math proficiency, this is the test that they're basing it on. The state requires, in order for us to be deemed proficient in that area, that students are scoring 5 or higher. And you can see many of the careers, and these are right from industry, has a much lower bar. And so the state has really set a high standard for us. And so our students, if we were to look at what the industry is saying, our students are performing well above those. But in some areas, we're not meeting that 5. But as you can see, in some areas, according to industry, they don't need to be at that level. So we wanted to look at from a different lens, not just what the state was saying, but what is industry saying, and to make sure that we're on target for our students. And we feel confident that we are in those areas. When we're looking at the labor market information, one of the things we're supposed to constantly be on the lookout is what are potential areas for growth. We have no room at Stafford to grow, but if we were to grow, these are the areas that are showing up and that we've had the most outside interest and people reaching out to us looking for us to potentially expand into. So airline and commercial pilots and the aircraft and avionic equipment mechanics, Beta Technologies, which is an electronic plane company that's based out of Burlington. They're actually coming down next week because they are really excited. They've been working with our engineering program on carbon fiber technology. Our students are actually designing keychains that they are giving away at a big job, national job fair, because they want to have something that's student produced from the partnership that we've gained with them. So that's pretty exciting. And we've had people from the state and from the airport coming to us saying, we need mechanics and how can we get a program started at Stafford? So that's something that we'll be bringing forward to the Regional Advisory Board in the future. Possibly a satellite program at the airport is something that they would like to see. We just have to see how it fits in with our overall plans. Diesel mechanics is something that is a huge demand. We have a great partnership with Casella Waste through our CDL program. They're actually starting a diesel mechanics school, and they would be more than willing to have conversations at least about how we could potentially partner there. So that's something to consider. And then dental hygienists. That is something we've been doing a little bit in our adult programs around kind of the background information on how to become a dental hygienist and just kind of the textbook type work. But as far as an actual branching in, it's an expensive program. All of these are expensive programs to start, but these are the ones that would probably be on the radar if we were looking to expand within programs. So that's kind of where we're headed. I mentioned size, scope, and quality. This is one of the areas, so all of our faculty kind of took an intensive look at their program for this and the program of study analysis. These also had to be put forth before their program advisory committees. The state pushed up our deadline on doing these presentations by 3 months, so some of those meetings have not happened just because we didn't find out about that push up of 3 months until October, when most of them had already planned their spring meetings. So, but the staff has gone through, and then we have gone through and reviewed all of it. So again, it's looking at where we have students enrolling in our programs. We have 2 programs that do not meet that 8 FT, that's the 6 semester average. Those are 2 programs that are in our official program review process that we do, where we work with the instructors and the program advisory committee to support the enrollments in those programs. You know, construction is a high demand. Why aren't kids signing up? So that's the you know, what we're trying to figure out now. And then what can we do to change that program so that more students are wanting to come to the program. We did have a change of instructor, and whenever you have a change of instructor from someone who's been there for 28 years, you always see a dip in enrollments. So it's not a surprise. So we are actively working with both of those instructors and their program advisory committees to strengthen those programs. Again, it's a supportive process. It's not a punitive process, with the hopes of helping them with the resources they might need. So you will see any place that is yellow is areas that our staff has highlighted as areas that they're feeling like they're in need. And so we are going to have to work on that. Most of it is in the equipment. We have a solid equipment replacement plan, and most of the items that were highlighted in those are part of our equipment replacement plan that will happen over the next 5 years. We update that annually when we do our budget as part of the budgeting process. I mentioned before that the state has requirements. They're changing the requirements for next year, because why not leave something the same for 1 year and 2 years in a row? So FY25, next year, slight changes. This just shows you kind of what the AOE is requiring about who has to have those industry recognized credentials, who has to not only offer 6 college credits or a combination of 3 college credits and an IRC. So the feeling is that each year this will keep going up. So again, our goal is to make sure that every program is offering both, so that we can kind of be ahead of where we're going to be expected to be within the next couple of years. So that came right from the AOE. As I mentioned, the program of study analysis, there's 89 areas. Same process. The instructors get kind of the template, and they have to go through and provide evidence of how they are doing in each of these areas. And then they have to bring it to their program advisory committee. They have to get their feedback on it to make sure that they're in agreement. And so it is a long process to go through this. And this is what our staff has been working on since October. And we literally just wrapped it up with the last faculty meeting. We just wrapped it all up. So it's been a long process. So those are kind of some of the areas. Obviously, I'm not going to share all 89 areas. So I literally just I ran the screen and I put my finger as to what the area was that I was going to highlight to you. And I made the screen extra bright because by now you're probably falling asleep, so hopefully the bright colors will keep you awake. So these are just some of the areas, and again, I'm not going to read all of this to you. This is kind of a compilation from where we were the last time to where we are now. Last time there was a lot more yellow and red on these screens. Basically, green means that we are there. We're doing this on a regular basis. We're feeling confident that we have this in place. Yellow, it's still a work in progress. It's something that the instructors and their program advisory committees felt that yes, we're there, we're doing it, but we're still not solid with it. So that was kind of the yellow. And then the red was not started. And in some cases, and none of them made it up here, some of them just aren't feasible because of our facilities, some of the things that they require of us, and so they made notations around that. So overall, I think we're doing very well, and the staff is really committed. You know, they have been working hard over the last 5 years as we've been going through this new iteration of Perkins to really document and prove and have evidence so that we can provide the evidence that we need for our grants, which is, just under $400,000 each year. So it is obviously important to us. And these are just, a couple of other areas around the facilities, our business and community partnerships, and so on. CTSOs, those are our student organizations. You'll hear us talking about Skills USA. We have our annual competitions. Do they have access to be able to go and meet with peers around the state that have common interests and compete in competitions? And so that's a requirement that we have those opportunities available for students. So it's not just Stafford-centric, it's really statewide. And if they do well, it even goes to nationals. And we're fortunate we've been bringing kids to the nationals for probably the last 20 years at Stafford. So that's kind of where we are with that. And now I get to stop talking and turn it over to Kayla.
So in addition to the analysis work that our staff did and really diving deep into what we're doing well and systems-based stuff, we also survey all of our stakeholders, and it's a lot of surveys. So we survey our families, our partner schools, our staff, current students, former students, also students at our partner high schools who, for whatever reason, did not attend Stafford, and why didn't they attend. So we put this all together so it'll help formulate our projects moving forward, because we can do all the audits that we want, but if we're not listening to the feedback of the people that it impacts the most, then it's kind of, pointless to do it. So this first part up here is our faculty and staff recruitment, retention, and professional development survey. So it addressed several areas of our staffing, and we found that we're doing a lot of great things, and there's some things that we need to improve. Some of the things to highlight are the staff comments. We had 30 respondents, and I enjoy working at Stafford Technical Center. 29 of the 30 agreed. Some of the key findings that we found: people enjoy coming to work at Stafford. They enjoy the students, the flexibility to be their own teacher and not be micromanaged, and the colleagueship that many of our staff feel. So it's great for us to see, and we have a very supportive staff who support each other and our students, and we're all on the same trajectory to provide a diverse educational experience that's unique to this community, and our survey results demonstrate that, which is always nice to see. And part of the survey work is addressing professional development and what we offer and what we should offer. So this year we spent much of our time focusing on equity, access to CTE. We also did continuing work with our academic proficiencies and embedding those credits and aligning that with a state program proficiency as well. Our staff also, our program staff and academic staff attend statewide tech meetings twice a year. So that's kind of like a mini PLC for a given program unit, which is nice because in CTE it can be isolating if you're the only human services instructor, within a 30-mile radius. So we continue to do a lot of that work. We incorporated the school wellness wheel with the Marzano group, and we're also working on looking at our assessments, our proficiency scales, tightening those up so we can really put them in the hands of students so they can talk the language in their own way, and we're on the right track. Moving forward from the surveys that we conducted and the analysis that we did, we have future plans to continue the personalized learning that we offer to students, but also adding another level to that, and that includes incorporating digital portfolios for all of our students. Right now, it's mainly focused on the students who participate in work-based learning, so tying their learning and their knowledge that they had while they're in program and relating that to their field and their work placement. So our goal is to implement that next year, begin the process of researching the best format so all of our students can demonstrate how they're achieving program proficiencies. And also parts of that they can take out into the work world and say, hey, this is what I'm doing. We're more than a tech center, that, you know, of the previous definition from long ago. And also we're working for our second year students. They've been in the program 2 consecutive years. We're looking to incorporate a capstone project, which can be the culmination of all their work during their time at Stafford, and also take on a leadership in facilitating that experience for other students as well. And we're continuing with our industry-related training. We did that last year. Melissa and I were co-teachers through the process, and that allowed our staff to go out to industry, whether it was visiting another tech center or taking trainings or professional development specific to their trade, which in the CTE world and in Vermont can be challenging because there's only 16 CTE centers in the state. So that was a huge hit for our staff. They got a lot out of it. They used that learning and brought it back to the classroom and developed lesson plans to incorporate that and delivered that last year. So we're going to be focusing on that as well for next year. So part of all of this is the recruitment and the retention also include, well, our staff and our students. And, you know, our goal is to provide an educational experience that's unique and diverse and meets the needs of all of our learners. But we can't do that without the relationships that we've formed with our partner schools, our community members, and our families. And this starts with our recruitment plan. This helps to support our efforts to do so. So we start recruitment. When I say recruitment, it's also for current students to keeping people there, and also educating families, because Stafford, they may have a preconceived notion of what Stafford is and what we offer. So we start the recruitment and the experience back in September, and it goes through August. So we begin with our back to school night, and then we do, we have our sophomore visits. Melissa and our outreach coordinator, Cindy Dunnigan, visit all of our partner schools and do presentations to the sophomore classes each year to educate them on, you know, how to apply to Stafford, what do we offer, and how we can be an added bonus to their education. So we continue that work throughout the year, the first semester, and then we, in December, have Career Night, which is like an open house. So we have our current students demonstrating different stations within the programs, and this is for students who are interested in applying for next year or the following year. And then we begin the application process that opens usually in November, with the priority deadline being December 15th. And then in January, we have a bunch of visitors come through. And it's over the course of about a month and a week, I think, January, and then it ended like February 5th. So this year, the application, or the admissions team, we reviewed 300?
Just under 400.
Just under 400 applications. And we spent a lot of quality time together. So
Wow.
we like each other. So, but we go through every single application, both returning students, new students, students who might be switching programs. And so it's a lengthy process, but we are a blind admissions team. And that means that we look at the student visit, the specific records that we request from the schools, and we don't know if a student is on an educational plan, anything like that. It's blind admission. So we look at our program expectations and our entry requirements and compare that to the supplemental materials that are included in the application. So that's where that relationship with our partner schools really comes into play, because we work hard to meet with school counselors and special ed coordinators prior to the application season to make sure that everyone is understanding that these are our program entry requirements. Because the worst thing is we have a student and they're admitted, and then come to find out, for whatever reason it might be, they don't quite meet the entry requirements, and it's a difficult conversation to have. Any student after the admissions letters go out to the partner schools, the special education team at each school and counselors are aware of that, and any student on an educational plan, there's a transition meeting. We also have back to school night signing night in April, to invite all new students and their families to come in, and it's like a NCAA signing experience, minus the the scholarship level, but we're not quite there, but so our goal is, by the end of the school year, our faculty and staff have had 3 connection points with incoming students. so they know the building, they at least know their instructor and where their program is, and the rest will help them figure out, that first couple weeks of school, because the relationships are key to us, and this retention timeline helps to support that. So as Melissa stated, we've been collecting data from our surveys over the last couple of years, and we wanted to take a look at a 3-year comparison since our CLNA last time. And this information highlights a lot of great stuff that we're doing. And there's always areas for improvement, but we wanted to take a moment and highlight some of the positive comments that we received in the surveys, and also the percentages, because they're pretty remarkable. We had, of all the students surveyed this year, 95% feel that students are treated with respect. 100% of our students stated that they feel safe in our hallways, which is really important to us for a variety of reasons. It's not just about physical safety, but it's a connection with people. And we pride ourselves in really working hard to do that and maintain that. 99.5% stated they're engaged fully in their program, because what? If you're not engaged, why do you want to be at another school? And many of our partner schools are very engaging for different types of learners, but we found that all of our students are really enjoying their time at Stafford. And the bottom statistic, did anyone discourage you from attending Stafford? So we had 10.5% this year. Last year, that was 17%. So what we're doing is working. We still have some tweaks and some messaging to adjust, and we're doing that through our program of studies work, our career pathways work, to really show that, a student can come to Stafford and really have multiple pathways. It's not just going into the workforce. We have several college-bound students and students who enter industry with a bunch of credentials that are beyond the entry-level requirements. So we set our students up for success. So, and this goes back to the reasons for not attending the program at Stafford. So some of the responses were my schedule wouldn't allow it, my parents didn't support it, I didn't want to leave my partner high school, and as Melissa said, we don't really have any more room to grow. We're busting at the seams, so that means that some of our kids are waitlisted. I think right now we have about 45 or 50 students waitlisted.
61.
61, I was a little off. So that's why they didn't attend. So we look at that data, we take it seriously to see what we can improve on moving forward. I don't see a new building in the next year or so, but we'll make it work. And this slide is also just going over the Stafford parent guardian data that we collected over the last 3 years. Again, it's a lot of positive feedback. Parent guardians feel that their child is better prepared for career or college when they attend Stafford. They enjoy their time being here. The connections that our program instructors and teachers have made is making a difference, and we see that. One thing to note is where it says my child is better prepared for college by attending Stafford, the asterisk next to the 76 respondents, those students weren't planning to attend college, so that's why there's a difference in that number.
So if you're still awake from all of that data, so now it's kind of like putting it all together and what are we going to do with all of this. So we have a slide, kind of our areas of focus of what we anticipate putting into our grant application. So our academic curriculum integration, it's working in math, and we want to keep doing that, as well as expanding it to the reading language arts piece. The career exploration, which is obviously a huge part for our students to understand the opportunities that are out there. We'll be back fully staffed at 2 school counselors next year, which we're excited about, so we'll be able to really dive into that. Middle school outreach is something, if any of you follow this state legislature and the Senate Ed, and that just got crossed over into House Ed, there's a statute that's out there trying to make it that it's mandatory that we are that we have every middle schooler in our region, which is 33 middle schools for us, coming to Stafford for at least a visit. not sure how that's going to happen. But, so middle school outreach is going to be prime and front and center for us going forward. Programs of study, we have our Flexible Pathways Coordinator that is really working with all of our programs to articulate what it looks like for a student when they're in, like, looking as a 7th or 8th grader. I want to be an engineer, I want to be a nurse, kind of showing them the pathway to get there and the courses, that, you know, the types of courses that they should be considering as part of their high school scheduling, and then what that could look like a couple of years out as well. So really helping students and parents understand what is offered at Stafford, and these aren't closing doors to colleges. In some cases, it's opening more doors to colleges. And then continuing our work with our special populations category, increasing supports there. And then we've been talking about this, and we're really excited to be applying for a grant this year for our Pre-Tech Exploratory Program, which is our 10th grade program, which will allow students to explore every career cluster that we offer at Stafford. So fingers crossed we get the grant, and we will have that up and running for the FY26 school year. Beyond that, obviously we mentioned some of the new programming that we would need to consider, and obviously space is a part of that. And then also adding the work we're doing with the immersion of the academics into a lot of our programs, working to add a second math instructor, and then at some point a science instructor. And then additional, we find that our special ed population is going up. I think this year we're about 44% of our students are on some sort of an educational plan. And many of the partner high schools used to send paraeducators, and that's becoming less and less because they're facing staffing issues as well. So making sure that we have the supports in place with staffing to be able to adequately support the students and meet the needs of their plans. So that's where we're headed in the next few years, so.
I just have a question. I know you were, use the term partner schools quite a bit for students coming in, so I would assume that's schools within the area.
Those are our high schools that send students to us, yes.
Now, is it only, just to clarify, only students that attend the partner schools that are eligible to apply for Stafford? Or, for instance, could homeschooling students or like MSJ students, or so
Absolutely.
it is open to all?
So it is open to all. There's some stipulations we just ran into. It's a first that in my 29 years we'd ever come across. We have an MSJ student who resides in New York. Wow. So who comes here every day from just over the border. That student we're not allowed to consider. They would have to consider a BOCES school in New York. Which doesn't make sense if they're attending high school, but that's the way the regulations are. But yes, homeschool students, we have, our homeschool population grows each year.
Very cool.
And so it's, yes, exactly what you're saying.
Thank you. I actually had the pleasure of attending the Stafford at the Woods at the Spa today as a dummy for them to practice on. I had a facial and it was lovely. So I can say you guys are doing an amazing job.
Fantastic.
I don't know if this is a silly question, but do you ever poll maybe graduates to see if they're still in the career that they went to Stafford with, and so you can see how much success is being had with staying with your career choice? And
Absolutely. That's one of the surveys that we didn't include because there's lots of surveys and we were trying to shrink it down. But yes, we are required to serve our alumni each year. And so we're finding, you know, we had a lot of alumni from 20 to 30 years ago that responded to this year's survey, which was kind of amazing, it's kind of fun to see. And I would say about half of them are working in their career or career connected to that. Some of them, you know, the programs that they took are no longer offered at Stafford, so it kind of skewed the data a little bit. But I would say at least half are still working in their field, even 20 to 30 years out.
testament, I think, to you preparing them for that career, that they could stay in it and it was successful. So that's great.
Question. Maybe a little selfish on my part, but has like EMT or paramedic avenues been, have you heard anything of that?
Yes. So we expanded to a second instructor in our Health Careers program 2 years ago. So this is the second year of it. We're working right now, the college credits is the real focus for that career path, and so we're working at that. The next area that they want to, and students are expressing a huge interest in, is the EMT.
Yeah.
It's a very, very expensive program to start. So right now, one of our instructors is actually doing the background work to become a certified EMT instructor, which will cut down our cost.
Yeah.
For us to pay for her to get that professional development and that licensing will actually save us a huge amount of money in the long run. So we're working on that piece. So it is definitely in the works.
Cool.
I'm very excited about the airplane.
I know.
And the mechanic and the pilot and that would be really cool. That would be
Be really expensive.
really, I know. I know.
Flying over my house, please.
But it's very like, you know, forward, like growing kind of, like
So-
really cool idea. That's great. Yeah, I like the forward vision. It's awesome.
I would like to say how incredibly impressive this is.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you for doing all of the work for this grant because it is immense. And it also struck me particularly, I mean, it all struck me, but the student survey, like, that is incredible.
Yeah.
That is something to be so proud of.
I think a lot of these students have felt, in their previous they didn't belong, and they're finally with peers that have the same passion and interest that they have, and they can freely express that, and I think that makes a huge difference for a lot of students.
It reflects engagement. So, yeah, I just wanted to note that.
Thank you.
The workload to do this is amazing. They are constantly working on it.
Clearly, like, and you finish and you probably then again just
Yeah.
start the next day. Like,
Exactly. It's
there
every
is
2
no
years, you'd
end.
think you'd get like it'd be like
A
3 or 4
reprieve.
years, you know,
No.
but 2 years, it's endless, yeah.
Yeah.
In your blind vetting process, I'm very impressed by all of that. So very good. You guys have a good system there, it sounds like.
We work on it.
It shows.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you. Thank you. Crazy.
For the somethings are free for the facial. Ours is mentioned. How did you do?
Superintendent.
Thank you so
Olson.
much. Thank you so much for the introduction. So you have with you in your packet our final product of our strategic plan. Love the design that they did for this. They have graphic designers that do the work just like they did for Portrait of a Graduate. I'm mad that I probably never will be on the cover of Vanity Fair, and I thought this was my chance to be on there. So it looks great, and a lot of work went into this. I want to start by saying I think the board's job, for sure, one of the main jobs of the board is to set the vision for the district, and you supported this all along. You participated in this, and you have the product of a very good vision with Portrait of a Graduate and the plan to get there. So it's congratulations to you for the work that you've done the board has done over the past year and a half, 2 years. So I'm going to speak, I think you basically know what we did. You were able to sit in most of the meetings. I'm really speaking for the sake of the public to make sure people in the public understand what happened. I'm going to try to skim it down and be fairly general. Just basically explain the context and the process. And then we're going to have a few of our leaders in the district come up and speak about different elements of the strategic plan, so that we can, they won't go through every single thing that's in there. There's a lot in here, but they'll speak generally about what each of their goals were that they worked on. So, and I will say, this was a lot of work, and if you were in there, if you were in all the meetings that we had, that was a pretty big contribution. But then a lot of stuff happened outside of those meetings. A lot of writing. Mary Beth was in a lot of these.
Well, not nearly what the rest of the people did, but yes.
So it was pretty intense. So in the end, we have a good product. So let me talk about the process a little bit. Oops, I got two clickers going here. Okay, so here's what we did. We worked with the organization Battelle for Kids. We were able to use federal ESSER money to do that. And we worked with them for the fall of 22 and the fall of 23. We first worked on developing a vision, and we then worked on developing a plan to get to the vision. The process required that we involve as much representation of the community as we possibly could. And so we have up here some of the numbers that we had from the participation. And you can see the board members participated. We had a large number of staff members, 33 students that went to the meetings at night, but there was also some meetings that happened at the high school during the daytime. And we also got student input from surveys as well. And going back to family and community members, we tried to consider who are the people in the community that could represent the breadth of the community. So we invited as many different types of people as we could. Not everybody was able to participate for every meeting, but we got a pretty good representation, and we got family members as well. So that's how the process was set up. What we first did in 2022, in the fall, was work on the vision. So we were charged by Patel for Kids with the concept or the sentence, I'd say, that we were trying to consider what skills and competencies do we expect our kindergartners right now to be able to know and do when they're finished with their school, when they get to 12th grade and go on to whatever they're going on to. And as we did that, we were considering social expectations, societal expectations, and economic expectations. And it was a little bit scary because we were looking at what the future economy might look at. It's hard to predict. And so we built this considering we need to be flexible. We need to make sure that our kids can do many different skills, not just rote learning. And this is something that's been going on in education for years, so it's not a new concept. But the product ultimately was our Portrait of a Graduate, where we said we have to make sure that our curriculum and our kids have these 7 different focus skills, and I'll read them for the sake of the public. We have adaptability, collaboration, communication, critical thinking, empathy, integrity, and wellness. So our community thought these were the most important things that our kids ultimately have to learn. So we continued. The process worked like this. We set the vision, and that was fall of 2022. And then in fall of 23, we said, okay, we know what our goal is. Let's look at our current state, and let's see some data on where we think we are. What are we doing well at? What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? What opportunities might we have? And then what do we feel are threats to our system? What are we worried about? So we did a SWOT analysis. And we gathered data from all across the district. We worked in what they call design teams. So we had a large group of people, sometimes up to about 90 or so people, looking at this information. And ultimately they took that information and said, oh, we really see some strengths here, and we see some things to work on. And as we went through that, we were then able to develop some objectives for the strategic plan. So we started to flesh out where we thought we needed to go based on what we had. It's just an example of some of the data that we had. I think that was from Northeast School, if I remember correctly. Is that right? Look right, Justine? Way back there? Yeah. So the process then came to conclusion. It's this group of 90 or so people started to say, all right, we see these areas of focus that we need to have. And obviously, one of the areas of focus for a school system would be teaching and learning. So this is what we really do. This is our bread and butter. We want to focus on making sure we're doing that well. A second area of focus was wellness. We'll generally call it wellness. It came to be called, we have this big long title for it, The Evolution of Wellness Through Inclusive School Communities. So we were trying to involve those concepts into the title of this. But in general, we wanted to make sure that our kids are doing well and our staff is doing well. And then the last thing was we wanted to plan for how we see resources being used in an equitable way, in a strategic way, and making sure that we're planning for the future as we go forward and have the resources to support what we're trying to do. So that's the basic overall structure, 3 priority areas. Underneath those priority areas, we have specific objectives. These are specific things in teaching and learning that we want to achieve. And then underneath those, we have strategies to get there. So the structure is priority areas, objectives of what we need to achieve in those priority areas, and then strategies to get there. So it's a simple structure. And that's a picture of some of the high school kids working with our consultant, Beth Silvera, one day. We had a lot of kids involved. So I'm going to ask some folks to come up and explain each one of these priority areas. Like I said, it's teaching and learning, evolution of wellness, and resources for success. Those are the words in more detail, but I won't take away the thunder. They're going to each explain the three. And if you have questions as we go along, please ask. So we're going to start with teaching and learning.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Bianca McKean, Associate Principal at the high school.
I'm Justine Rulin, Principal at Northeast Primary.
Justine and I were both on the teaching and learning writing team along with some colleagues. And so we'll give you a general overview of the main priority area and the objectives, a little bit with some of what's in the strategies. You obviously have the document. And then answer any questions you might have about that. So generally speaking, teaching and learning is, we have identified it as teaching and learning is structured to provide all students access to high quality instruction and standards-based content that clearly identifies student learning and supports student growth towards Portrait of a Graduate traits. And the process was pretty intense. We did a lot of drafting, bringing it back to get feedback from different stakeholders, really trying to incorporate all of the ideas and keep our vision on the future and what's best for our students as a part of the plan. I'll talk about the first objective and then I'll pass it over to Justine. So the first objective.
Bianca, we're on
yes.
page 8 and 9. If
Yes,
you
page 8 and 9. The first objective is really around learning systems. So Rutland City Public Schools supports all students in accessing standards-based programming and working towards the Portrait of a Graduate traits by removing barriers to success. So what that really looks like is making sure that we are reviewing our curricular offerings and all of our curriculum, both at the grade level and school level, but also as a district, to make sure we are offering what's relevant for students and addressing any gaps, making sure we're aligned, looking at how we're using our resources and our staff when we look at building schedules, personnel, how we're really utilizing all of those things to help all students, especially students that might be experiencing some kinds of vulnerabilities that make it difficult for them to access their learning. And also, how are we really looking to embed Portrait of a Graduate in everything that we're doing in our schools and expanding our understanding of diversity as a school community. So that's the main area of our learning systems.
Sure. And to expand upon that, to touch base on the process, you could read through these strategies and read for yourself kind of the direction we'd like to go. Personally, I found the process of having these conversations with other members across the district, educators in different buildings, people who are in different roles. We had recent retirees on our team. We had members of the IT team on our team, school leaders, to have these really in-depth conversations about things that we're really passionate about, which is education. And so, as Bill said, this is the bread and butter of what we do, to talk about teaching and learning. And our teachers across the district have spent the last 3 years working on our curriculum development. And so it feels that this is our next step to have a common understanding. Doesn't matter if you're a primary school teacher, middle school teacher, the strategies and goals are commonly aligned, and everyone can look in their building and say, you know, how are we working towards promoting and embedding our Portrait of a Graduate traits within our building? And then look at the great curriculum work they've spent the last 3 years building and say, oh, this is how we're doing it. Another point to consider, during the last few board meeting presentations, you've heard us reference, students who are receiving different types of services, whether it's EST plan, 504, IEP. This teaching and learning area helps us to really focus in on our tier 1 or layer 1 or general instruction and how we are teaching students within the classroom at the universal level. So just want to share about that. Are there any questions for us?
All right, we'll go to the next writing team.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next team was looking at wellness generally, and so we have Marie and Megan. Speak about that.
I'm Megan Marsh. I'm the associate principal at the Rutland Middle School.
I'm Marie Gilman, Executive Director for Tapestry and Epic After School, K-12. And we, along with folks from across the district, high school, primary schools, worked with the huge nut, which is wellness, and really decided in our initial conversations that we had to focus our energy. And so you see there, students, staff, we called it infrastructure. And the reason for that was thinking students have a different experience than staff, yet we all live in these environments, work in these environments, use these tools online, that we want to make sure everybody feels safe, welcome, respected, and able to embrace the Portrait of a Graduate traits and learn and develop life skills that they can carry forward with them now and in the future. In the Portrait of a Graduate under wellness, it even spoke to person, place, and culture. So that kind of defined the approach that we took.
The first area that we looked at was obviously students. And we thought that a lot of what we discussed in wellness for our students was decision-making and how to guide them towards decision-making using the resources that we had at hand. So again, just focusing on confident, resourceful decision-making.
And in objective 2, which was staff-facing, our intent behind that was to really make sure that in the strategies we're deploying through this plan, we're supporting staff, but also engaging them in a way that they can invest in themselves and in the district, which will improve overall their own accomplishment, success, feeling of well-being in delivering the service, which will benefit the students, which overall will benefit the entire community in time. So.
And the last area we looked at was infrastructure. And we thought a lot about both physical infrastructure and the virtual infrastructure that our kids live in and our staff. And we wanted to focus on having staff, students, and visitors have a positive experience when they entered our buildings to attend both either school events or activities, and while they are sharing information both within our district and outside of. We wanted to focus on promoting safe, inclusive environments that foster cultures of respect and dignity.
Questions for us?
Thank
you. Thank you.
And then our last group was looking at resources for success, priority area 3, and we have Christy and Carrie to speak to that.
Hi, Carrie Course, principal at the intermediate school.
Christy Kaludi, principal at Northwest. Hello.
We had, as you may know, very similar process. There was some talk about our category as whether it was embedded in some of the previous ones, especially the last one on wellness. In our group, we kind of rightfully so had people from our business office on our team because we were looking at, we want to make sure that what we have in place is going to help support the other two. So our first one, we looked at staff to make sure that we have, we're recruiting and developing the staff that we have in high quality staff. And then, let me show what you do.
That's right. All right. Good. One part with the staffing, we thought, with this whole process, yes, it's important to have objective strategies and how are you going to measure it, right? So having outcomes that are measurable. One thing we talked about with staffing is how are we going to hire and keep folks here. Looking at Stafford, how are we going to keep our own students within the system? We talked a lot about that. What programs could we develop, whether it be through student teaching or different programs at Stafford or other venues. One thing that our school district is going to be going to is a job fair you know, so doing some recruiting and stuff and really thinking outside the box. So we talked a lot about that because we feel hiring within and creating our own is a really, you know, important piece of this whole process. So the next piece was equitable resources. Just looking at the budget, right, all year long, looking at what areas we need to improve, what areas we're doing a great job with, and just making sure things are equitable for all students and all learners and across the district.
I think, like Justine said, with teaching and learning, you want to make sure everything is tied back to Portrait of a Graduate. We were saying, you know, our budget should always be tied back to our strategic plan. You know, what the funds and what we're using it for, you know, is there the purpose behind it?
And one neat piece with the folks that were on this committee, like Carrie said, we have, you know, business folks. We also have other members of the team that are school board members in other districts, you know, folks that are in the community with students, with children, without children. So having everybody's perspective. One of the things we thought it was really important through this whole process was to make the language user-friendly. We, at the table, knew what everybody was talking about. However, we wanted the lens of all stakeholders of the community. So we thought that was a really important piece throughout this whole process. When you look at the document, people can understand it. And if they can't, there's a glossary in the back, which is super helpful. But just to add 2 cents to it.
And then the last one was our infrastructure. And our buildings, you know, how are they maintained? Are they functional? Looking at, you know, school improvement. I know that Glenn does an amazing job with looking ahead and planning. So just keeping that in mind so that our goal is always just to have, you know, safe buildings that are usable and ready for, you know, whatever we
brings us
wanna do with them. And including technology too. And Patricia does a great job with that too, making sure, you know, we have the latest and greatest and keeping us up to date. So, questions for us?
And just to explain the process for once, like I don't know if I explained this well. You were part of the design team, which is that group of about 90 people or so, and then you were also part of this what we call a writing team. And you had about 6 to 7 people in your group, or so.
7, yeah.
Yeah, 7 people. So the writing team was doing a lot of the writing, getting their commands from the design team, basically, or their charge, and then we'd come back to the design team and say, how does this look? Or come back to our administrative cabinet and say, how does that look? And we did a lot of editing back and forth. And I said to them, this should be an easy task. You can be on the writing team. It'll be fun.
Actually, those not even signed up for the writing team, got assigned to it. And I was like, I'm a great writer. But it was more than a writing team. So you think you're going to go and it's about editing. It was, I would say, like a group of just thoughts. Like we just had so many thoughts on paper. We have so many edits. Like we came back and we met for a significant number of hours. Just, you know, we had a common document and, you know, what do you think of this? How do we word this? And it was a pretty amazing process for sure.
Yeah, a lot of iterations. Sorry.
Not just for the two of you sitting here, but everyone else who was up here, I think, having been a little bit more of the behind-the-scenes person. I can't describe the amount of time and effort that the people, the writing teams, and everyone put into this. It is incredible, and particularly when you have a room filled with perfectionists.
Yeah.
I only heard rumors of it, but you know, between cabinet and everyone in the room now, you know, and everyone on the teams, right? I mean, I think it's probably, you know, it's like, I don't know, let's put 20 cooks in the kitchen and see what happens, right? You know, and it's even when you enjoy who you work with, it's still really hard because there's wordsmithing and it's splitting hairs, but you want to get it perfect and you want to get it right, and I think that commitment is evident. So thank you for that.
They did great work. You know what it was like, Karen? It was like being on the policy committee, but way more intense. Way more intense.
No hanging hyphens.
So, was there candy involved?
There was no candy involved.
Oh, there's
no candy?
Nothing?
Oh
my God.
Wow.
Not at 8 o'clock in the morning.
It's the best time for
I
candy.
know.
We're robbed.
We need to
I know, seriously.
do some.
What?
The wellness people wouldn't allow it.
So,
Just
go
to
ahead.
finish up, I'm sorry, so I just want to talk about next step, yeah, sorry about that. Next step, we are meeting again with Beth Silvera of Battelle for Kids. She's going to guide us toward helping us plan out measurements for all these goals we're shooting for, measurement processes, and like something of a timeline, so we can make sure that we're following a process and making progress. And our goal then would be coming to you regularly and reporting on just kind of like what Kate and Melissa just did, on how far we're getting with this. So that's the goal, and I just did want to say thanks to the folks here at the board for you gave us this charge, and you supported it. We appreciate that. You did your job, basically. And I would like to thank all the people that were involved in the design team work. There was a lot of people, I think over 150 people altogether. And that doesn't include, actually, there was still some more students from RHS that I'm not counting in that number, that did a couple separate sessions with Beth. And the writing team, especially, the writing teams, the 3 writing teams did a lot of work. So we really appreciate all the commitment. The whole community was involved in this, and we got a lot of good information. And then I also wanted to make sure that Amaya had a chance to give her perspective, because Amaya was involved in a lot of the all the nighttime meetings, and she has a good perspective on this too.
Yeah, so it was just a really good experience. I mean, sometimes I was paired with people I had no clue, like who they were, and I was like, oh God, I'm gonna be uncomfortable. But I mean, every time I was sat at a table with nobody I knew, I was still with people who embodied the portrait of the graduate. And we spent 2 hours in a room, and no matter how many hours we were there, nobody was being unkind or not displaying the portrait of the graduate. So through the examples of others, I learned what it was to be the portrait of the graduate. And the work we did was so important because it began a process that recognizes all people of color, ability, sexuality, gender, national origin. And although some were not included, there were so many different perspectives and backgrounds. So we came up with a good plan, I would say. As we continue to be the change in the education system, I hope the strategic plan can provide different avenues that can be a challenge for specific kinds of people. And as we as a community recognize those barriers and provide resources for them, success can finally be seen. And that's what I hope for the strategic plan to lead.
The students in this process were fantastic. You all got to see that. So many good comments, so many good ideas, and so we're really glad that everybody was able to participate that way. And the students showed that they're equal contributors to this, so it's good. Sorry.
Just to follow up on something Amaya said, which I think raised a good point, is this a document that we can move forward with, that it can be updated, that's going to be, I mean, it's going to be a living document, so we can change things, we can grow as society and our community does?
Yeah, I would think that over time, as you see, maybe in a couple of years, we're going to say, you know what, we thought this was something of a goal, but now we really need to make sure that it's a strong goal for us,
Right.
or vice versa. So yeah, it should be a living document and
Right.
be able to shift as we go along.
I thought the students were really great. That was one of the highlights, I think, of my participation in the groups, was listening to the students and how some of the stuff they said was just inspiring, really.
So, I'd like to entertain a motion to accept the strategic plan as it was presented.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And the motion carries.
Thank you very much.
I felt like we should clap.
Very long process.
Yeah.
Back to Bill.
We don't have any committee reports, of the changing of the board, so.
Do we have a superintendent's report or no?
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought that was your report. Yeah, no, okay, thanks.
We can skip it.
You used up all your time, Bill. Sorry.
No questions or comments?
I can stay quiet. It's like, the teacher didn't pass out homework, so I said I was going to.
I shouldn't have said anything.
Can I just say a couple things?
Please.
Thanks for the budget. Thanks to the board for helping us create a really responsible budget. Thanks to the public for supporting our budget and all the good things that our budget supports, the good work, the opportunities, the support for kids. So that's one quick thing, being quick. Soup Bowls for Hunger is coming up
April 11th.
April 11th. And I left that on your table. This is a fundraiser for our local food pantries. It's live because they had done some shifts on that during COVID, but we're back to the way it used to be fully. And so if you're interested in that, and we want to just make sure that our public knows that this is available. Tickets you can buy them at the high school main office or at Phoenix Books, April 11th. I think Amaya mentioned Music in Our Schools Month. Awesome concert last Thursday with the choral groups. Awesome concert last night with the band, and then tomorrow night is the orchestra, and then there's a jazz band concert. I think it's March 19th. I have 7 o'clock tomorrow night, 7 o'clock March 19th, and I just wanted to thank Carol Baker and who's our fine arts director, and our teachers and our students for giving us this great music. Winter sports, I'll just say quickly about that. I think Amaya said a few things there. I wanted to recognize the cheerleaders. 10 championships, state championships in a row. That's unbelievable.
That's awesome.
Alpine boys, they're state champions. And I'm never going to get it all right. I know Marie has this down perfectly, but the Alpine boys won the state championship. They were also involved in representing the state at Easterns, and they came in first place for the entire eastern part of the country, or Vermont did. So they had a fantastic year. And then snowboarding, did you mention, Amaya, I think Hagen McDermott was first place in snowboarding. Okay, then we'll throw that in there. In the rail jam competition, that is, but first place. Rock climbing, you did mention, they came in second place, and you mentioned Josh Pankratz and Amelia Shelton were the top male and female climbers. And so I just wanted to congratulate and thank all the coaches, all the students, Mike Norman, athletic director, and his assistant, Cassie Smith, for another great season. Parent conferences are Thursday. If you have not connected as a parent to your school, please do that. It's such a good opportunity to make sure things are going the way you hope they are, or if they aren't, that you make a plan together with your teacher and plan for the end of the year. It's always really good to bring your student to that meeting, so that you're all the same team, everybody's hearing the same thing, and we're going in the same direction. So that starts Thursday afternoon and evening, and Friday morning. And reorganization meeting for us next Tuesday. Just want to remind everybody, that's 6 o'clock. Should be short. Right, short. And I just heard this news. I'm glad you gave me a chance to talk.
My pleasure, Bill.
I just heard this news from. I got an email from Jay Nichols, who's the head of the Vermont Principals Association, and they are announcing the 2024-2025 Principals of the Year. We have one for next year. It is for the State Assistant Principal of the Year for Vermont. It is our Rutland High School Associate Principal, Bianca McKean. She is. Really, really great honor and really deserving. Thanks. Congratulations, Bianca. Okay, now I'm done. Tried to go fast.
So no committee reports. Any unfinished business? Okay. So we'd like to recognize, Tricia, our outgoing board member, and Kevin, who I think is.
I think Kevin should come up.
Kevin, yeah, please, come on up. You're like the
Incognito out there.
Yeah, no, he doesn't want to come up. So, well, I just want to thank you. It is, you know, an unpaid volunteer, total volunteer, time-intensive commitment for 3 years. And just want to thank you for putting all of your time and energy into the board. Thank you.
Well, I will say, if I had to come up with the thing that I most enjoyed during my time, I really enjoyed the portrait of a graduate. There was one that I was not able to make it to, and I was very disappointed, but I really enjoyed everybody coming together and coming up with ideas and a focus. I don't know, I just really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the students being there and their input, and I felt they were very well spoken, which I thought at that age I certainly was not. I still don't know that I am 100%. But it was just a very nice experience. So that was one of my top things. And then there were some things that, you know, we moved on from, and I'm glad that we have. So I'm going to miss everybody. But it's time for somebody else to take over this position and have a lot of fun.
Can I say thanks to you, Tricia, and Kevin way back there. You guys were here during some really boring years during education. So thank you so much for being involved in that. And I always say it seems like you just come to these meetings and it's somewhat an easy job. It's not an easy job. You have a lot of responsibility. And there's a lot of outside of this meeting stuff that you have to be involved in. So I don't want to scare anybody away. That's how I got the writing team to get involved, right? But thank you for donating your time and your leadership and your service to the community. Having a really good board, a strong board, makes such a difference for the schools. We always talk about that. So thank you for the work that you did over the past few years. Kevin got his chair already, so. Okay.
Oh,
Look at that.
You got it?
Look
You
at
got
that
it? Okay.
chair.
Wow.
Sit on your front porch. And
Wow.
No, I thought it was coming to my house. I have to lug it out.
Okay, Tricia, I'll take care of it
Are you
for
sure I'm not getting that?
We don't do deliveries, but.
Oh my gosh, I'm like, in my light, I started to water. It's like, I love it.
One day when you're a grandma, you can open it.
Hopefully not for a while. She's a senior.
Okay.
Oh, I think I'm up, right?
So I entertain a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of consideration of contractual matters, the premature release of information regarding those subjects, which would place the board at a substantial disadvantage. And we would like to invite Ted Plamenos and Bill Olson, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, everyone, for coming.